Hiya. Okay,
Hello.
broadcast is live. Woo!
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are Mshauri Careers, and today we will be doing a live webinar session on career progression and specifically how to shift careers. And if this is the first time you've ever interacted with us, I'll just give you a brief background on why we're here and how we got to this space. So myself and Mudhoni started this journey approximately a year ago, where we realized that there's no real platform for people on the sort of African continent when it comes to career and career advisory. So we decided to start this channel as a platform to tackle issues that are affecting our day-to-day individuals in the workspace, all the way from CV writing to all the way to people who are in sort of later in their career stages, and which has brought us here today. So we actually put up a poll on LinkedIn asking our viewers what are the challenges that they face at work. And as you can see, unclear career progression came out quite highly on there. And so we decided to do a series. And part of it is actually just doing a complete career shift altogether. And so we brought on none other than Doris, because she has successfully done this over and over again. And we are so glad to have her on board so that she can tell us her story and let us know how she has been successful. So without further ado, I will just have Mudhoni quickly introduce herself, and then we will pass it on to Doris, who can tell us her story.
Well, I won't take up the spotlight. Guys, you know me. I am M, and we're so excited to have a guest who will tell us all about what you need to know when it comes to shifting your careers as part of your career progression journey. Doris is someone I adore, so I am so excited to share, for her to share the story with you, and so that we can all learn. So Doris, karibu sana. We are so honored to have you. Welcome, and over to you. Tell us about yourself and what this career progression journey has looked like. We're all ears.
Thank you, and it's so glad to be here. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Mudhoni, for having me. I'll just start with who I am today. So, right as I sit here, I am a career coach. So I actually, surprise, work with people who are looking to shift and make pivots in their careers. That's sort of the space that I get most excited by in career coaching. I am also the chief growth officer for Yusudi. If you don't know about Yusudi, please have a look at them and see what we do. But I think more than that, maybe it would be more interesting for me to tell you a bit about, like, now my history and how I got here. So my background is in talent development, both within organizations and consulting firms. And a big part of that experience over the last 10 years has been working with organizations to just help them on board, recruit, and do the best they can from a talent perspective. But it was a journey to get here, and I can't even say I'm there yet. And my first job, if I remember, was as I was working in a kitchen in Eldoret in Sirikwa Hotel, because after my Form 4, I just walked in there and I said, "Hi guys, are you looking for someone to help you cook?" They took me in without any qualification.
Did you just say kitchen? You said a kitchen?
Yes, that was my first job.
In LD?
Yes.
Okay.
For 1 year. This story, it will come back. It's a loop. It's a very interesting loop. So I did that. And then in the process, obviously, we were applying for university. So when I was applying, I thought, man, interior design looks so sexy. Just looks like something I can hack. So inside, I did interior design. Noticed quite quickly that I have no design bone in me, not even the little one. But I was in second year and it was too late to change. So I finished that degree. I passed. That tells you something about our education system. I passed with flying colors. But I quickly noticed that there was no way I can do interior design. I wouldn't even hire myself. Like, I knew. And so there was this opportunity I saw. Someone told me about people who are going to Dubai to do some water stuff. I quickly got in there. I applied. So my first real job after university was actually as a lifeguard. that requires zero qualifications. It didn't even require you to speak a language. It was just, I was working with people who had finished standard 4, standard 3. Like, it was really, really basic. I did that, and then through my time in Dubai, I was able to be a lifeguard. I was a waitress at some point. This is all me just finding myself and finding what's interesting. I even became a dive master, so I actually have like serious dive master skills along that time. But somewhere along the way, I found myself in learning and development, because one of the times when I was a team leader for reception, I started training people on reception, and they noticed that I was really, really good at just facilitating and helping people be their best. And that's how my journey into talent development started. So that was Dubai, and then I came back home, and then I joined Aga Khan University as within the HR department, again within learning and development. I did that for 3 years, and then I got bored. Boredom was killing me, because I just felt like I was training, but there was no impact. So I left, and I remember the word I used when I was leaving, and I think this is very important, because I said, if I have to train one more person in customer service and I see all this negative feedback, I will just shoot myself. She put that statement in my resignation, because she found it very, very interesting. So I went and I moved now from HR, from HR in departments into consulting, which was slightly different at Career Connections. But again, I felt like that is where I really, really started finding myself. I did that for about 5 years. And again, the itch began. So there's an itch that comes to me every time. And this was slightly different though. This wasn't boredom. This was, so I come from an extremely poor background. My mother even had to have fundraising to take us to school, my brother, my sister, and I. And I lived in the village. All my experiences have always been in the village. And when I used to do graduate recruitment programs for big organizations like GE, EABL, I would rarely see people like me. I would only see the kids that have managed to be successful, and their parents are successful, because that's what it requires. So I felt like the education system was twisted in a way that if you came from where I came from, chances of you coming into a graduate recruitment program, even just assessments, I used to see 1 out of 30, 1 out of 20 that looked like me from that perspective. And so I started getting curious around how can I help to get more people who are from really, really underprivileged backgrounds to actually be part of an EABL graduate recruitment program and make it through. Okay. And so I decided to go and do my master's. So I took 1 year off to go to the UK to do my master's in psychology, because I felt like my interior design degree, remember, was not going to help in this one. I didn't think it was going to. And so that is how I found myself in doing my degree in the UK. I came back, and from then it's been a journey of finding myself and finding the place where I feel like my skills can be utilized, but also I give the most contribution. And I'm very excited, because right now in Yusudi, I feel like I am finally using a lot of the skills I learned and what I needed to do to get here. So it's been an interesting, eclectic journey all through until today.
That's a fabulous story, from hotel receptionist to swimming underwater to country director to now chief growth.
I've never known about the swimming.
Yes,
in my years of knowing Doris, I did not know that was.
I'm a certified scuba diver.
So maybe Doris, you can tell us, because I know a lot of people get really, really stuck in this space of, okay, so I studied law, so I must be a lawyer. Tell us a little bit about how you would advise people who maybe, went to school for interior design and somewhere find out that, this is really not my passion, but because they are not sure whether they can shift. How important is education?
That's a good question. And we are going to remove the doctors, the lawyers, the ones who really need the qualification to get in. But even then, you can still do something. I think education is important as long as it serves your purpose, as long as it serves the desire and interest that you want. Sometimes I get very frustrated when I see that we are leading with, I have a degree in this. And I'm like, I don't really care what degree you have. What can you do? So if your degree is helping you explain what you can do, then please, by all means, use it, front it. But if you're going to school for going to school, Like if your values are not around learning, and this is very important. When I think about my career, I am what people call high net growth, people who really are interested in learning, curious about knowledge. And so even my degrees and anything I do is always around, I am really curious, I'm interested, but I don't necessarily associate it to the next career unless it's absolutely important. Micro skills, yes, like you would probably need a micro skill in something, but a whole degree that you're doing in relation to a profession, I would say let it not be the first thing. Learn first and then let education come later. I don't think it's the be it and end all to your career for sure.
So if I can add to Lily's question. So I'm in my fourth year, I've done BCom Finance, and it's very popular. So the chances of people listening having this is very high. So I have BCom Finance, and I'm feeling constricted to applying for a commerce type role. What would you tell me if I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling anxious? Talk to me directly, Doris. What should I do? I'm not in love with finance. What should I do?
You're not in love with finance. First of all, it's okay not to be in love with finance. Absolutely okay. It's okay. You just need to know there's nothing wrong with you not being in love with finance. And there's nothing wrong with finance. It's just you two don't get along. And so maybe then removing your head. So saying, I have done this finance degree. I have the basic foundation for a degree, but what really, really gets me excited? Or what aspects of the BCom degree do I get excited by? So there's definitely many modules. Is there a specific one that is exciting you that you can think, okay, let me explore this more? But essentially, there's nothing wrong with you. You are not your degree. Find things within that degree that you can use to sort of to help you as a platform to get to the next thing. Or if you're like me, which I don't think many people are, and in fact, if they were probably not going to be listening to this. You can call Taki and say, okay, thank you, my mother, here is your degree. Now, where is life? But that's a bit harder, and it's not for everybody. You really, really need to have a certain level of risk in you to be able to just completely dump that and move. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, in fact, you've begun something that we will come back to a little later, but we have a few more follow-ups on that. So you've talked about the role education played or can play as you shift your career. How about the triggers themselves? So from your story, you've landed in Dubai. You have this role as a lifeguard, and you're at the reception, and people are identifying you. Maybe you don't think you're a trainer, but other people can see that you have this gift. Mm-hmm. That to me sounds like the thing that triggered you to consider a new career. Have there been other type of triggers that have then sparked an idea for you to shift a career that you may not have seen?
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, that's a really good question. Even before the receptionist, the reason why I wanted to do dive master training was because when you're a dive master, you actually train other people to be divers. So my role is to train you to be a diver. So my training and ability and love for just that training space started with being a dive master. I noticed immediately that I wasn't a really good dive master, mostly because I would lose people in the ocean. And then, yeah, my direction was not the thought of being a dive master, the training aspect, but the job, the technical aspects of it, I was really bad at it. It was one of those experiments that failed. But I knew then that learning was something that I was excited by. So to answer your question, I always ask people to look at the framework like this. What are the triggers? It depends on what excites you. So if you're someone who gets excited by knowledge, your trigger could be, are you becoming more knowledgeable by what you're doing? If you're someone who gets excited by adventure, when the time comes, do you feel like you've accrued enough novel, memorable experiences that you're feeling, okay, you know what, I am no longer getting the excitement? Some people's trigger could be fame. Maybe for you, what drives you in your career is fame. So are you feeling like you've built enough audience that there's nothing more to mine from that? Some people, it's power. So is it possible that in your career, you were seeking the power, but either the power has been removed from you, you feel like you need more power. So it really does depend on what are your anchors. Could it be money? Okay. Are you feeling like you're stagnating because it's no longer the job, no longer increases your financial wealth? Could it be talent? Do you feel like you're completely exercised, there's nothing else you can give this job? Or even maybe the human connection. Maybe you're feeling like, I really, really value human connection, but this job has boxed me. I don't talk to people, I don't go out, and that's what was exciting me. You have to find what I call your anchors and the things that you value so much about a career, and then use that to help you springboard and start thinking about those moves. Mine is always knowledge. Yeah.
So back to you. The ones who know you know Doris as country director for Shortlist, which is a global company that does great things. You can quickly Google them, guys. They do a lot of job placements and recruitment, and the blog is great with career advice and such. So Doris was the country director for this business. What was that triggered you to shift from this being the country director of such a business to Usudi now, that does, it's not entirely north and south, but its business model is very different from Shortlist. Yeah. So talk to us as Doris now. What is this trigger for you?
Okay. So again, as usual, there's a story to this. When I joined Shortlist had just acquired a company called Spire Education. Now, Spire, remember my need for helping people, the work readiness. So Spire was supposed to come in as a training body for Shortlist and work with the recruitment arm to see if you don't succeed in a job, how can we give you some skills to really, really boost you? Unfortunately, along the way, Spire didn't, the business model did not succeed, and Shortlist just became a recruitment company. Now, this cues you to what probably triggered my next move. So that happened. And then unfortunately, along the way, also, my mom started getting really, really sick, and I took time off. Probably many people don't know this, but the last 1 year, I actually took almost completely time off to just be with her. And when I was crashing my head, because some people would have considered me to be spoiled. Come on, you're the country director, you have all this, you have a title, you have everything. How can you still be anxious? How can you still feel like this is not it? So when I was one of those moments when I was feeling really low and guilty that I am feeling bad about, I'm not excited by my job. I remember my mother asking me, because she had cancer, she said, if you are sitting at my space right now, like if you had cancer, what would you regret the most about some of your career choices? And there was no question about it. I would regret not having worked closely with youth to try and help fill the gap between when they leave university and when they start work. And unfortunately, I lost my mother about 3 months ago, and that to me was almost a wake-up call to say, come on, Doris, let's actually get in, let's see. And I'm not saying Usudi is but I feel like I am in Usudi, I'm finally able to use a lot of the skills that I learned. But maybe if you have time, I just need to tell you, it has been a process the last 1 year. I have spoken to over 50 people. I have spoken to so many people in that space. I just didn't throw myself at Usudi. My first thought is I was going to go into the NGO space. I mean, NGOs, they do this. They're really, really good at this work readiness youth employment. And it made a lot of sense because that is, my goal was, I wanted to influence policy. I wanted to work with governments. I wanted to work with educators. I was having a crazy pipe dream. Everybody told me, Doris, no one has succeeded. And like yes, we can see it, but is it possible that you can actually just get a small pie and start working on it and see how you can grow that? And so my biggest regret about working for NGOs is I kept telling people, I have built such a strong network in my space. I can't believe that I have to leave everything I am, everything I know, and move into the NGOs because I would have to create really, really fresh networks. I'm very good at building them, but it's taken me almost 10 years to build it. And so when the founder for Usudi told me, Doris, I think, let's try, can we try and build this company together? It just made absolute sense because I still get to leverage a lot on the skills that I have. And this is really important for career moves. Leverage on the skills that I have, but still learn a lot around this space that I really I haven't had as much experience as I wanted to date. Yes, so that's my journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doris, for being so raw and candid with us. And just to let everyone know, we will have a question and answer segment at the end. So feel free to jot down your questions in the chat box and we will come back to address it. So Doris, everyone is here for one reason and one reason only. And to understand, how have you been so successful when it comes to shifting careers? I know earlier you talked about there's a certain risk profile that's needed. Is it personality? Is it just jump for it? Or like, what are the initiatives or the things that you've put in place when you're shifting careers has helped you not only like land, but land on your feet in this new sort of environment that you've jumped into?
Wow, that's a really, really heavy question. At first, I was very stupid and I was probably just lucky. I want to be extremely honest. At first, I don't think there was a design to me jumping careers. I was just fortunate that each time I jumped, there was a job waiting to rescue me. It's very risky. I wouldn't advise anyone to do that. For example, when I left Dubai, I just woke up and I said, I need to go and stay with my child because my baby had come home. And I'm like, okay, it's time to leave. And within a month, I had left. My mother usually she says, whoa, stop, wait, what happened? And by then I have moved, I have left. I was fortunate that within a week of landing in Kenya, I actually got a job in Aga Khan. Not everybody can be able to do that. So again, I wouldn't advise you to just cold turkey this. If I look at my move to Career Connections, 3 months before, I made a list of the companies that I would wish to work for. I wrote them down and then I reached out to them. I reached out to each person. I wrote a small note. Career Connections was the first one because I've seen Madeline in a True Love. She had a blue dress, I'll never forget, and her email was there. She's the first person I reached out to. And she actually asked me to come for an interview, and within a month I had. That's the same thing I did with Shortlist. I wrote down the companies that I wanted to work for that I was really, really excited by when I was still in my master's, and I reached out to Paul. Again, I found his email address in somewhere. I'm a recruiter, so I stalk people's email addresses. Let's just say that. And that's exactly what happened. With Yusudi, it's a conversation I've had with Charlotte for a year, just as friends. And, she asked if I could join. There's been a lot of design, but there's also just been areas where and it's always I am bored. This can't be it. This can't be it. There must be so much more. Sometimes I've been able to make changes within the organizations, like in Career Connections and even in Shortlist when I was able to move. But I've always noticed, and it might not be a good thing. I don't think I want to advise anybody. There's actually possibility for you to move within organizations and not necessarily outside that. Yeah.
All right. I think it's my turn to ask a question now. Okay. So this shifting careers is not easy, as you said. There are challenges that one faces, and you've itemized quite a number, because you might end up quitting cold turkey, as you're saying, and then you have no opportunity waiting for you, and now you're scared, and so how, if we can isolate one major challenge that faces us, which is finances, because what advice would you give a person listening to you right now, based on your own experience, about how to handle your finances as you do these career shifts, some of which are highly risky?
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good one, because a lot of the people I coach right now, it always comes down to finance. And sometimes I feel like to say finance just because it's the most convenient thing. And usually when you tell someone it's money, they're like, I understand. But in reality, it's just the most convenient answer to give at the time. I'm not saying let's be careless, but we all know the rules. I always make sure that I have enough savings for 1 year, at least 6 months. I've been out of work now for the last 1 year, at least 6 months. Now, I am slightly different in that I live a very frugal life. So I don't necessarily have crazy loans waiting for me, crazy mortgages. And if I did, I make sure I have accounted for that. You absolutely have to account for that. But also, you start 6 months. I stress this to everybody. I don't coach people who want to move careers within a month. I don't know how to coach you. I coach you for at least 6 months, so that in that 6 months, you have a period, you still have your other job, but you have time to try, to pilot, to fail, to try again, and maybe now move. So and even when you move, remember the first 6 months, there's 50% chance you'll fail. There's always that chance, especially when you're a leader. So again, your finances have to have incorporated the possibility for you to fail within 6 months and then move. So first, I know we like using finances as a security and as an excuse, but really ask yourself, is that it? Are you sure that it's finances that is limiting you? Or is there a way you can actually shift and squeeze and be able to survive? And 2, baby steps. Take 6 months, take 1 year, but just be very intentional. Like actually carve out 10% of your time each week to your career change by talking to people, piloting, trying things out, so that your finances don't suffer as much. Yeah. I think that's what I would say, yeah.
Great, thank you so much for that. So let's talk a little bit about the sort of one path career. And is there a myth around you can only just have a career and cannot have multiple careers ongoing concurrently? So if you're a banker for life. You just move from bank A to bank B to bank C, carrying your loans and your mortgages with you as you move along. Talk to us about that and multiple careers and what it takes there, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yes, this is a topic, a favorite of mine, because Lily, what's very interesting is that every day we have multiple careers. I feel bad the fact that we don't think motherhood is a career, or fatherhood. Okay, fatherhood, let's talk. But motherhood is a career. It is. And we seem to be able to go to work, do that one, come back and continue with another career. Unfortunately, it's not paid, but it is a career. So yes, you already do have multiple careers. The question is, is it possible to have careers that also give maybe multiple streams of income? Is it possible to have careers that give multiple meanings and values to you at the same time? Absolutely not. We have been doing it for a really long time. In fact, sometimes the solution to other people I see, especially, and when you gave a really good example, Lily, banks, people in banks, they're like, Doris, my mortgage, man, it's going to take 5 years for me to finish that thing. There's no way I'm going anywhere. Those are the people I usually encourage to think. And it's the reality. They can't. And there's no need, because it will just stress them. Immediately think, what else can I do that will give me so much meaning that does not require me to leave this career right now? And so either that becomes your evening and night job, that becomes maybe within that same bank, maybe you're working in KCB HR, and you say, okay, maybe I can try and see how I can support maybe the operations guys, because that's the easiest sort of transfer of skills between HR and operations. So yes, you can have multiple careers. We already have them. What we struggle with is ability for us to also have multiple streams of careers, income coming from those careers at the same time. And it's extremely possible. A very close friend of mine is a GM and runs a whole business around, it's called Game Night, around games. And you can actually think she's a full-time person running that, but she's not. She does that in the evenings and weekends and earns money from it and meaning, but continues with her day job every day, which is running a full business. So yes, let's all have careers that are as many as we can manage. Yes.
And is there a right time to have a concurrent career or at any time? Because I tend to see that sometimes people look at that avenue when they are sort of down in the dumps. But in this day and age, I see a lot of even young people before they've even graduated having started their own two things on the side. So is there a right time or at any time?
There's no right time. And that's a really good question. I don't think there's a right time. I have someone now who's reporting to me who does almost full-time bakery. Like she runs a whole bakery station on the side and she's a full-time recruiter. You can do that. Nothing is stopping you. Where I actually really ask people to really think about their careers is in the second half of their life, because that's when it's absolutely important. Remember, when you're 40 and above, in 20, even 15 years, you kind of have to go into your encore career. You have 10 years to try things out. And that is when I ask that you really try and see, what else can I do? And when you're doing these things, it should align to your retirement plan. Because the biggest factor and risk factor to people who retire is boredom and loneliness, especially boredom. Boredom is as dangerous to your heart, to your body, as loneliness, as sometimes alcoholism. And most of the time it's because we didn't actually plan our ENQUIRIES careers by trying things out and having multiple careers into the second half of our career life, so that it's a really, really just smooth flow between what you were doing and what you now want to do for the rest of your life.
Okay, I have so many follow-up questions.
Go ahead.
There's a philosophy of start where you are. Now, I usually find it almost antagonistic. Start where you are. People you see so many forwards, people are trying to make it seem as though it's easy to start where you are. If you could talk to us about practical ways that are not irritating, that someone who's listening, who would really like to start shifting their career where they are, doesn't really know and could really benefit from something practical and realistic.
Yeah.
Because what does it even mean to start where you are?
Okay, that's a really good question, and I'm glad you asked it. Let's take a HR professional, because I think it's the easiest and the people that I probably coach the most on this. When you look at yourself as a HR person, do a skills audit. Typically, if you're a generalist HR practitioner, you have a lot of those skills. There's 2 or 3 things you don't have, and start where you are means please don't go there. It's probably finance and commerce, right? Like, that's not where we can sit and say, I am really solid in financial acumen. So, but what are you really, really good at? You're good at operations. Like, if you were to move to a role that is more operations, you're moving with 60 to 70% of your skill set, because it's just context that is moving. Okay. Yes.
So when you say like operations, can we say like what, like procurement, or what's in operation?
I'll give an example of let's say banking. A HR person actually work in the operations for the bank,
the payments processing and all of that. Okay. Huh?
Yes, you can actually do that. You have the ability to do that. What you don't necessarily want to jump into is maybe the sales teams, unless you're really, really good, or the finance team. Yeah. So you're finding ways where you can at least still use at least 50% of your skill set. And the skill set that you enjoy, I can't stress this enough. It has to be a stretch, but not a stretch that you're not happy with, you're not excited by. So I keep saying, start by just having a skills audit, understand who you are, understand what makes you excited, understand what you call your Saturday morning. There's always that thing you like doing on Saturday morning, the things that just excite you about anything, and see how you can transfer that within your organization into something else. Yeah, it can even be to the law department, but it's around things that you can move with at least 50% of your skill set.
All right, so now I've done a skills audit, and I've realized that contrary to what people might think, I think I can sell. I enjoy selling or designing products. Let's talk about even product design. I feel like, I've interviewed enough of these jobs. I feel like maybe I can be a product designer. Okay, I've done the skills audit, Doris. What next?
So I call it skills, people, projects. Skills you've done. People, who do you know in that space who has done that? Absolutely important. Before you jump, this is where I tell you to spend 60% of your time. Spend time talking to people. Who do you admire in that space? Who do you know who's done well? Who do you know who has failed in that space? Speak to people, do your informational interviews, just spend time understanding that space well. So that's people. If you're still saying, I can do this, I can design, HR this is the thing for me, I say projects. Now start finding projects around that. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It might just be because you spend time talking to these people. Remember, you've already built the connection. Start asking for small projects that you can do after work. So either after work or something. Unfortunately, a lot of organizations don't do what Google does, which is 10% of your work life, you're doing it outside projects that are not related to what you do, because that would really be cool. But still find a way to get time to be allowed to do those projects. From there, you will know. Like, you will start saying, okay, this excites me. What we are looking for is things that are stretching you, but stretching you in a nice way, not in a way that you're just feeling like you're completely worn out. And if you're still happy, yes, by all means, by then you'll know, and you will probably get a job anyway. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes. Now, this is the stuff you can't find on Google. Because I can tell you, start where you are. Is that like, you don't Google that, guys. Don't. You'll get a checklist and things that will just overwhelm you. So you said do a skills audit, spend time, 60% of that time with people. They'll tell you all plus you need to know. If you're still feeling like this is my thing, get yourself in projects and do some practicals in that. And if you still feel, then likely someone has seen you and maybe you're on your way to a new job, right? Wow.
Yes.
Thanks, Doris.
And that's why it's not an overnight thing. Design your career move in a way that will minimize failure. You might fail, and I have done that a few times, but design it to minimize failure. Yeah.
Doris, let me ask you about a dilemma that a lot of people commonly face when shifting. You talked about the projects, which is usually the weakest side of the strengths that you have, and having to possibly take a pay cut because where they're going to either being told, okay, we really don't have your track record on record. So for you, we are willing to give you this opportunity. But like you said, possibly start at a lower level. It's a tough one. But what would you sort of say to people who are in that dilemma and are like, should I? Is it worth it? I don't know.
No, that's a tough one. Okay. So, and thank you for asking that, because when you're designing especially when you're doing your skills audit and that whole design should be in around the question, what do I want to be in the next 1 year? Not 5, not 6. In the next 1 year, what do I need to be doing? What do I need to be feeling? How do I need to feel? How does people around me who have seen me frustrated, tired, and bored need to feel about me at that time? Okay? Very rarely will that include money. When you ask yourself those questions around what do I want out of my career in the next 1 year, money might not be a factor. If money is still within a factor there, then consider that within that. However, I know that sometimes, more often than not, you might have to sacrifice in the short term your financial earning for the long-term career that comes with it. I took a 50% pay cut. I think it's 50. Yeah, I think 50. When I moved to shortlist from Career Connections, I was comfortable and okay with that because, and Lily, you're a recruiter. At a certain point in your earning, the other is just extra. What you really, really, really need to do what you need to do on a day-to-day, probably you can still do to 50%, especially at a certain level of earning. So it's not the same for everybody. So I did take that cut. I don't regret it. I earned that money back within a year. And so sometimes you will sacrifice the short term for the long term. But remember the question, where do I want to be in 1 year, will guide how that will look like.
Doris, thank you. Very, very powerful.
All right. Let's bring parents into this picture. And our question is really, what role do parents have or do they play in influencing better career shifts in their children, especially the ones who are in universities doing it for the sake of, because mom said, dad said, and parents here include guardians, because there are many guardians who are actually sponsoring kids through school, and maybe terms and conditions of sponsoring you is that you do pharmacy, and probably it's killing this child inside. So what role do parents play? What should they be sensitive about? What advice would you give other parents as a parent as well?
Ooh, this is very emotional. I think right now I have the job of my dreams, and it's taken me a very long time to get here. And sometimes I ask myself, why am I not more excited by where I am? It's finally the pieces are all coming together. But it's because my biggest career coach is not there, and that's my mother. That's how much influence she's had over my career. And by influence, it's not do this. It's, oh my God, I think this is wrong. And then she's like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. And just asking me very, very thoughtful questions. there's been times when she's been against some of my moves, completely against them. But it's not from a point of malice. It's just she does not understand the space as much as I do. She probably doesn't know how much homework has gone into a lot of what I've done. All right. But she was able to give me a sort of a freedom to say, okay, you try it. But she usually says, educate me, explain to me, what does this mean? What does career connections do? Okay, so you're going to, okay, so shortlist, you say they do this. So I had a parent who really didn't know everything but asked. So again, number one for me, parents play a role. And I think us pretending and ignoring that they don't play a role is a challenge. But what you do is, how do you educate your parents so that you're giving them enough information for them to understand why you're making the moves at the time that you're making the moves, especially for us who really, our parents are our anchors. Two, sometimes when I know I need to make a move that might not make my mother happy, I do it and then I tell her later because, man, she will not give me her blessings then. And I know if she doesn't give me her blessings, I will not be very, very happy. This is all to say, parents, do communicate to them as much as you can, involve them in that path. If they want you to do law and you want to do medicine, or if you've done your law degree and it's not working, unless your parent is crazy, or you try and understand where they're coming from, because we use our own careers to determine what our children are going to be. So you understanding why they're insisting on something and really understanding where it's coming from will help you know how to navigate the conversation and tell them, I know this is what you want from me. You want me to be a lawyer because maybe you suffered in 1, 2, 3, 4 areas, but I can still do what you suffered without necessarily being a lawyer. But again, I am someone who has had an unpaid career coach as a parent, and so if that's you, I would say communicate, involve them as much as you can. And if that's not you, I would still say find out why your parents are resisting a certain thing. There's always a reason we resist this thing, and then use that and see how you can now leverage your conversation around that. Parents are important.
Wow, that's great. That's amazing, Doris. And you've been so helpful, so interactive throughout the session. I think I would like to just maybe look at a checklist or a specific checklist, maybe to just summarize some of the key points that you've given us, because you've given us so much. So if you were to create a checklist for what career shifting or juggling must-haves, what would that look like? What would that look like for you? Because I'm sure the people listening in are very keen to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, all right. First thing is, again, for me as a coach question, so ask yourself, what next steps in my career will keep me in my stretch zone? Remember, it's important to still be within your stretch zone, feeling engaged and challenged. Okay? What we want is for you to shift based on a foundation of strength and what's already working. So using what's already working as a foundation to shift to the next thing. And then, as I said, plan. So look at your skills, your value, your strengths. Is there an education aspect you're missing that you want to add on to it? And then look at your 1-year vision. 1 year from now, what do I want to be seen doing? And then now you try and close that gap. How do you close the gap? Is, again, as I said, people and projects. You speak to the people in that space, find out what they know. Again, if you guys want, I can share with Mshauri and Lily. I have questions that for every time you speak to someone, you must cover 5 areas. Which is learning about them, about the organization, about their careers, about where to network in that space, and about who else to speak to. And based on that information, usually you have enough to go with into deciding whether that's something that is suitable for you. Again, after that, narrow down on projects that you think will stretch you enough, will make you feel engaged and challenged, but also answer a lot of the questions. And in the beginning, don't do one project. If you can do 2, 3, try. Because again, you don't want to narrow down. Go for quantity as much as you can. Do as many of those projects as you can. And then it'll help you sort of along the way so that you know this, at last, this is the thing that you want to do. And then pilot, as I said, pilot, try things. There's no other way I can tell you this except pilot, try things in smaller quantities first. If you know what this is, you know this is design thinking. So just use the design thinking methodology to think. And within a certain time, you will know the projects that gave you more strength, you are feeling engaged, and the ones that were too hard for you, you will know that you are feeling challenged. And then you will you are not feeling challenged, and you stick to the ones you're feeling was stretching you, engaging you, and still leveraging on a lot of your skills. That is what I would say is the checklist. And that it's okay every 2-3 years to feel a certain itch and decide, oh, I need to make a change. A lot of industry knowledge is saying that, especially for millennials and Gen Zs, you'll have about 5-6 different careers in your lifetime. Our parents had 1, 2 if they were lucky. So it's okay to feel that itch, acknowledge it, and see what you can do about it. Yeah, that would be my answer.
Great. I have one question that can be a tough one. Sorry, Doris, I'm throwing you all the tough ones.
Yeah,
in the session, you've mentioned that you had a couple of failures along the way. What is one that really stands out to you, and what have you learned from that decision? We don't like to call them failures because we are learning. We are learning.
3. 1, I thought I could be a waitress. I had the looks, the body, the personality. I was really bad at it. I remember there was one time I went to, I was serving drinks, those champagne drinks. I have ADHD, guys. I spilled those drinks on some VIP guys. It was bad. I was fired the same day. Same day, I was out. I thought I would be a dive master, water, talking and training to people. I lost so many people under the water because my sense of direction is really bad. To date, I use Google Maps everywhere because I can't know where I'm going. That was a total failure. I needed to get out before I really hurt people. And unfortunately, dive master, you can actually kill people if you're not careful. I wouldn't necessarily say moving to shortlist was the biggest success of my career. I felt like it was too big a shift. So I moved from talent consulting, into being a commercial director at first. So I was managing sales and marketing teams and very little projects. So it was a really, really steep learning curve. For me, I struggled a lot. Half the time I was very unhappy because I just felt like it was too much of a stretch. I could have done it in small bits instead of really, really going full on. And I think sometimes I don't think I gave my role at shortlist as much as I could if I had just taken it in small bits instead of just completely turning from operations of talent into commercial. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Doris.
Thanks, Doris.
Maybe before we pivot into questions and back to Mudhoni,
yeah.
In the beginning of your story, you said that this story will come full circle.
Yes.
So I'm here to hear the full circle.
Yes. So two things. I did, when I was joining Career Connections, they made me do an assessment called Morisby, just to understand my strengths and skills. And so it's Lily and Mudhoni know this test. So the areas that you're really, really good at come out very thick, and then the areas that you should never go into is a very thin line. So based on the thickness of the line, you know that's where you are. Design was the thinnest line, obviously. I mean, no surprises there. But my ability to use hands and people was really, really strong. Nowadays, I do a lot of, so that's one. Second one, nowadays I do a lot of career for the youth. I do a lot of career sessions for Good Kenyan, for Village to Nation Foundation. And so I take from 4 kids through that. So I use a system called Career Explorer, which is an online, it tells you your skills, which education you should do. And the thing that has consistently come out as my biggest strength is either a food critic, a chef, a what, everything around food is my strength. Had I just stuck with that when I finished my high school and just continued, I would be a Michelin star chef right now. I tell you.
That's very, very interesting. I think at this point, Mudhoni, if you don't have anything to add or any questions, then maybe we can jump to the Q&A section. And we want to thank everyone who has interacted with us so far. So maybe what I will do is, we have a question here is, how do I test a different career option without fully committing? Like how do I low risk test? I don't know if that makes any question.
Yes, it does. And that's a really, really good question. You start small. Like start really, 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 really small. If you've read Atomic Habits, do your 10%, your 2%, 2 minutes. He says when you're changing behavior, just try and do something that will be worth 2 minutes. So for you, look at a career and a change that is just really, really, really small. I'll give you an example of myself. I actually believe my retirement career will be a beautiful restaurant, organic, again, going back to who I really am. How will I start small? I will probably maybe start by just being, and I've already started. So I ask chefs to come to my house, and then I learn from them the recipes. Anything I find exciting in a restaurant, I try and convince that chef to come to my house. I am really, really low risk testing it because I need to continue understanding whether this is exciting, and I am happy to do it continuing forward. So start really small. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that. Another question we got is, my friend wants to switch his career to something he believes he loves, but is not good at. How do I advise him? He is advancing at work and has a family depending on him.
Yeah, okay. So there is a disconnect. So something he believes he loves but is not good at, there's something wrong. First of all, either you're romanticizing something that you think is cool. So go back to your values. I can't stress this enough. And then again, the values, and I'm happy to send this to Lily and Mugoni, around knowledge, adventure, fame, power, money, talent. What is that? What is it that thing is giving you that you think is that? If you're not good at something, don't do it. I can't stress this enough. You need to be able to pivot to something that you will leverage on your strengths, because then you will fail and you will think a pivot is bad and forget that it's because you pivoted probably. Or try small bits, especially when there's a family depending on you. Try it in small bits. Although sometimes I feel like we say family depending because, again, that limits us. And I feel like sometimes we just need to risk. As long as you have a good enough saving, you have to risk. It's the only way. It's not cold turkey. Try things, and if you feel I'm still excited by this, go for it. But if you're looking at something and it just looks cool, but you can't really do it, chances are it's just because it looks cool. So find something else that looks cool but you can do.
Well, thank you for that, Doris. We have amazing people engaging us on Facebook. Particular shout out to V, Cherise. Thank you so much for being here. We have Marcella and Stephen and Moss. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate the time you've spent with us. Oh, look at that. Marcella is saying, I'm here for this, with experience in customer service and looking to grow into an HR role, or an HR role. So, Marcella, I hope you caught that. There's a nice framework there that Doris gave us to start where you are. Stephen! Stephen, thank you so much for that. So motor stuff in Dubai. Wow.
Doris, where can you sign? I think you managed to get some more divers on board.
Yeah.
I know Stephen can't swim to save his life, but Steve, remember the things you enjoy and you can do. So let's continue with the bucket water for now for you, Steve.
Wow.
Talk about career changes. Thank you so much for that, Moaz. And we really, really do appreciate all your inputs, and we ask you to continue to comment below and let us know what other topics you'd like us to bring, and we will find some more fabulous Dorises. Go ahead, Doris.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's someone who said they want to move from customer service to HR, and I just wanted to ask, my advice to you, Maureen, again,
it's Marcella.
Schedule time with someone in HR within that space. If you're still excited, start where you are. So if you've scheduled time, you've really done your homework, they're willing to help. Ask them to be the HR champion within your customer service department. So, and if Mudoni and Lily will tell you, we are always looking for HR champions. So sometimes it might not be an official role, but if you can still start small by saying, what can I do for you where I am right now to help ease in your work as a HR person, and you can have a loose like HR champion. And then if you're still excited by that in 6 months, then, you know, it will be very, very easy for you to move. Again, start where you are, start small. And I know, Muzoni, you say that's a really a loose word, but I'll find another word to use that is better than that. Yeah.
No. You have totally made it palatable, because some things can sound antagonistic and unreachable, simplistic, but really difficult. So how you framed it really is exactly how it should be. It's very practical. I'm not afraid of that phrase anymore.
Doris, we also have another question that has come in, and it's what would you advise on to go ahead and take classes to help with the career shift, or wait until they get an opportunity in the field to take the classes? So would you advise people to go ahead and take classes to help the career shift, or wait until an opportunity comes in the field and then take the classes after the fact?
Oof, this is a hard one, but I'm going to try and answer it. Unless you want to be a lawyer and you've tried to be something else, and you've tried and you feel like this is it, I always advise you to first get in there and then do the degree. I actually am the person who believes we should all have done our degrees at 30 years and above, because then we really, really know what we are looking for. So try first, do the career shift when you've piloted and you're happy with it. Get in there, and then now do whatever qualifications, unless they're micro courses. But the best learning happens when you're able to practically apply what you're learning. So unless you're really in there, it just becomes theory, which you and I know is really a waste of time and space sometimes.
Great, thank you so much, Doris.
Guys, look at that. The hour has ended. It's now 2 minutes to time. Well, it's 2 minutes on my end. But it's like, wow, where did the hour go? This has been so much fun. Doris, thank you so much for being here. Guys, we are on all the socials. We're on Facebook. We're as Mshauri Careers. We're on LinkedIn as Mshauri Careers. And we're on Instagram as Mshauri Careers. So just go ahead, follow us there. You get amazing tips. We do infographics. We give you advice. We try and make you laugh on our Insta stories as much as we can. The career space is not a scary space, and we want to be the wind beneath your wings. So come on, subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is the main stage for us. Come subscribe, like, share, and bookmark as much as you need. Interviews, CVs, personal strength assessments. This is the place to be. So please come and engage and share with us your thoughts about more content that we can put up that will help you along your career journey and not cost you a dime. Doris, any parting shots? Where can people find you?
Yes. So first, I think my parting shot is know that the answer to what you need to do next is already within you. It's a skill that you have. It's an excitement that you have. So all you need to ask yourself is, how can I double down on what's already working and shift methodically? Ooh, that word, methodically, to something new. So double down and shift methodically, because you already have all the answers within you. Where can you find me? I will. My email is doris.muige. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on. I'll have an attachment to my webpage where you can even book a 30-minute free career session. Before you make a decision whether you want to really, really come in as a full-time for full-time careers. I'm usually very open to just having sessions and discussing with you and asking you questions that will help you really, really think more critically around where you want to go. So I'll leave that to them.
Thank you so much. Time for us to wave goodbye. The stream is about to close. Thank you, Stephen. I see Stephen saying goodbye.
Thank you for always supporting us.
Saturday.
Bye-bye.
Guys.
Thank you so much, Marcella. Have a good weekend ahead.
Thank you, guys. Oh, bye, Moaz. Bye. Thanks, guys. Oh, Stella Maris. Bye. So cool.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you so much, guys. We would do this without you.
You guys are the best. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Okay.